Close your eyes and imagine New York almost 3 centuries before it became the city the world knows today. There are no skyscrapers, no subway trains, and no bright lights stretching across the skyline. Instead, Manhattan is little more than a small colonial town sitting at the southern tip of the island. Fewer than 12,000 people call it home. Narrow dirt roads wind between wooden houses, church bells mark the passing hours, and merchant ships crowd the busy harbor, bringing goods from Europe, Africa, and the Caribbean. At first glance, life seems peaceful. Merchants bargain over imported fabrics and tea. Blacksmiths shape glowing iron beside dusty streets. Children run between market stalls while fishermen unload their morning catch along the docks. But beneath that ordinary routine lies a city built on fear. Nearly every building is made of wood. Roofs are covered with wooden shingles, and fireplaces burn from dawn until long after sunset. Every family knows that a single spark can destroy an entire neighborhood. Fire buckets hang outside homes, and church bells often ring to summon residents whenever smoke appears above the rooftops. Yet fire is not the greatest fear haunting New York. People fear one another. Nearly 1 in every 5 residents is enslaved. Although many people imagine slavery as something that existed only on southern plantations, colonial New York depended heavily on enslaved labor. Enslaved Africans built roads, unloaded ships, worked as blacksmiths, cooked for wealthy families, cleaned homes, cared for children, and helped construct many of the buildings that allowed the colony to grow. Despite their importance, they possessed almost no rights. Colonial lawmakers imposed strict rules to keep them under control. They could not freely gather in large groups. Many needed permission simply to travel after dark. Carrying weapons was forbidden, and punishments for breaking the law were often severe. The government had a simple reason for these harsh restrictions. It was terrified of rebellion. Only a few years earlier, stories had arrived from the Caribbean describing violent slave uprisings. Plantation owners had been attacked, homes burned, and entire communities thrown into chaos. Whether the stories were exaggerated or not hardly mattered. The fear was real. Many wealthy colonists began sleeping with loaded muskets beside their beds. Night patrols became more common, and officials constantly warned that New York could become the next target of a violent uprising. Then, on the morning of March 18, 1741, something happened that transformed those fears into panic. Smoke began rising above Fort George, the governor's residence overlooking New York Harbor. Within minutes, flames spread across the wooden buildings inside the fort. Strong winds carried burning embers from roof to roof as soldiers and townspeople rushed toward the fire carrying leather buckets filled with water. They fought desperately, but there was little they could do. By the end of the day, much of Fort George had been destroyed. Important government records disappeared in the flames. Barracks collapsed, storehouses burned to the ground. People called it a terrible accident. No one imagined it was only the beginning. Just a few days later, another building caught fire, then another. Soon warehouses, barns, and private homes began burning across different parts of the city. The fires seemed random. They appeared without warning. Sometimes they started during the middle of the afternoon. Others erupted late at night while families slept. Within weeks, more than 10 suspicious fires had broken out across New York. Now people stopped believing in accidents. Someone, they insisted, was setting the city on fire. Rumors spread faster than the flames themselves. Some blamed Spanish agents. Britain and Spain were at war, and many colonists believed enemy spies had secretly entered the city. Others blamed French Catholics, but another explanation quickly became the most popular and the most frightening. The enslaved population was planning a massive revolt. Suddenly, every ordinary event seemed suspicious. A group of enslaved workers talking in the street attracted nervous glances. A stranger walking after dark invited questioning. Neighbors began watching one another through windows instead of offering help. Fear changed how people saw the world. Colonial officials faced enormous pressure to act before panic turned into complete chaos. They launched one of the largest criminal investigations New York had ever seen. The problem was simple. There was almost no evidence. No one had been caught starting a fire. No weapons had been discovered. No written plans existed. Investigators had rumors, nothing more. As the search continued, attention gradually focused on a tavern owned by John Hugson. Hugson had already earned a poor reputation among many respectable citizens. His tavern welcomed sailors, dock workers, indentured servants, poor laborers, and enslaved Africans under the same roof. To modern eyes, that may seem ordinary. In colonial New York, it was deeply controversial. Authorities believed places where different social classes mixed freely encouraged crime and disorder. When officials searched Hugson's property, they expected to uncover evidence of conspiracy. Instead, they found very little: no secret weapons, no plans. No organized rebel headquarters, the investigation seemed ready to collapse. Then they questioned a young servant named Mary Burton. She was only 16 years old. Mary worked in Hugson's Tavern and knew many of its regular customers. At first, she denied everything. She told investigators she knew nothing about the fires. She had never heard anyone discussing rebellion. She had witnessed no secret meetings. Her answers disappointed the authorities. They questioned her again and again. Days passed, then weeks. Officials reminded her that she herself might become a suspect. At the same time, they offered something almost impossible for a poor servant to ignore: freedom, money, protection, if she cooperated. Eventually, Mary's story changed completely. She now claimed that enslaved men regularly gathered inside Hugson's Tavern after dark. According to her testimony, they planned to burn New York, murder wealthy colonists, seize weapons, and establish control over the city. She accused John Hugson of helping organize the meetings. She implicated his wife Sarah. She named several enslaved men. Then she named others. Every new interview produced another accusation. For investigators desperate to solve the mystery, Mary Burton became their perfect witness. Her testimony finally gave shape to every rumor already spreading through the city. Whether she was telling the truth became almost irrelevant. The public wanted answers. The government believed it had found them. Arrests began immediately. Soldiers appeared at homes before sunrise. Workers disappeared from docks. Servants vanished from wealthy households. People were taken away in chains, often without understanding why. Soon the jail overflowed with prisoners. Then something even more dangerous began happening. Officials offered accused prisoners a choice: confess and perhaps your life would be spared. Refuse and face execution. Many people broke under the pressure. Some admitted crimes they almost certainly had not committed. Others named friends, neighbors, or complete strangers in hopes of saving themselves. Every confession produced more arrests. Every arrest created more fear. The investigation grew larger with each passing week, until it seemed that half the city might somehow be involved. No one knew where the accusations would end. No one knew who would be arrested next. And for many innocent people, the worst was still to come. The city jail filled faster than anyone expected. Every week, more prisoners were dragged through its heavy wooden doors. Some had been accused of setting fires. Others were arrested simply because someone had mentioned their name during questioning. A few had never even met the people they were supposedly conspiring with. The investigation no longer depended on evidence, it depended on fear. Colonial officials believed they were uncovering a vast criminal network hidden beneath the streets of New York. In reality, every arrest only encouraged investigators to search for even more suspects. The authorities discovered a simple but effective method: offer hope. Demand names. Anyone willing to confess might receive mercy. Anyone refusing to cooperate faced the gallows or even a more terrible punishment. For frightened prisoners, the choice was impossible. Some confessed to crimes they almost certainly had never committed. Others invented stories that investigators wanted to hear. Many named friends, neighbors, or complete strangers simply to delay their own execution. Every confession led to another arrest. Every arrest created another confession. The conspiracy seemed to grow larger almost overnight. Soon the investigation reached far beyond John Hugson's Tavern. Dock workers disappeared from the waterfront. Blacksmiths were arrested in the middle of their work. Servants vanished from wealthy homes without explanation. People stopped trusting their neighbors. Families whispered behind locked doors. Parents warned their children never to repeat conversations outside the house. Fear had become part of everyday life. At the center of nearly every trial stood the same witness: Mary Burton. Only a short time earlier, the frightened 16-year-old servant insisted she knew nothing about the fires. Now she confidently described secret meetings, hidden plans, and conversations that supposedly revealed a massive plot against New York. Each appearance in court seemed to produce new details. According to Burton, enslaved men planned to burn buildings across the city one after another. As frightened residents rushed to extinguish the fires, the conspirators would seize weapons, kill wealthy colonists, free the enslaved population, and take control of New York. It was exactly the kind of story terrified citizens already believed. Very few people questioned whether her testimony remained consistent. The judges certainly did not. Instead, they treated her words as reliable evidence. The trials moved quickly. Modern criminal courts require physical evidence, defense lawyers, and strict legal protections. Colonial justice worked very differently. Rumors became testimony. Hearsay became proof. Suspicion became guilt. Many defendants had almost no realistic opportunity to defend themselves. One by one, guilty verdicts were announced. Executions soon followed. Some prisoners were taken to the gallows, where crowds gathered to watch them die. Others faced an even more horrifying punishment: they were burned alive. Colonial authorities believed such public executions would frighten anyone considering rebellion. Instead, they frightened the entire city. Among the most famous defendants was John Hudson. Prosecutors described him as the leader of the conspiracy. They claimed his tavern had become the headquarters for meetings between enslaved Africans and poor white colonists. According to the prosecution, Hudson encouraged rebellion against the government. Hudson denied every accusation. His wife, Sarah Hudson, also refused to admit any involvement. Neither changed their story despite weeks of imprisonment. It made no difference. John Hudson was sentenced to death. After he was hanged, colonial officials left his body suspended in chains for months outside the city as a warning. Anyone entering New York would see exactly what happened to those accused of treason. Sarah Hudson was executed as well. The message was clear. No one was beyond suspicion. As the weeks passed, the number of convictions continued growing. By the end of the trials, 34 people had been executed. 17 were black men. 4 white colonists also lost their lives. More than 70 others were transported across the Atlantic to harsh sugar plantations in the Caribbean, where many would spend the rest of their lives in brutal conditions. For a town of fewer than 12,000 people, the scale of the punishment was extraordinary. Entire families disappeared. Communities were shattered. Lives were destroyed forever. Then something unexpected happened. The accusations became increasingly unbelievable. Witnesses began naming respected merchants. Some even suggested that wealthy landowners and important government officials had secretly joined the conspiracy. The investigation had grown so large that it threatened the very people leading it. For the first time, judges hesitated. Had they made a terrible mistake? Without any dramatic announcement, the trials slowly began to end. Fewer arrests were made. Executions stopped. The panic that had gripped New York for months gradually faded away. Life returned to normal, but many questions remained unanswered. Mary Burton received exactly what investigators had promised. She gained her freedom. She also received a substantial financial reward for helping convict dozens of people. Then she disappeared. Historians have searched for records of her later life for generations. No reliable marriage records, no confirmed place of residence, no death certificate. After changing the course of New York's history, she simply vanished. That mystery has never been solved. Today, nearly 3 centuries later, historians continue debating what really happened during the spring and summer of 1741. Some scholars believe there may have been a small group of enslaved people discussing rebellion. Considering the brutality of slavery, such conversations would not have been surprising. Across the Atlantic world, enslaved communities resisted whenever opportunities appeared. Others believe the conspiracy never existed at all. According to this interpretation, the fires were mostly accidents that occurred in a city where wooden buildings, fireplaces, and crowded streets made disasters common. Once panic spread, frightened citizens began seeing evidence everywhere. A rumor became a fact. A suspicion became a confession created another accusation. The cycle fed itself until no one could separate truth from imagination. Many historians compare the New York conspiracy with the Salem witch trials that took place almost 50 years earlier. The similarities are striking. Both began with fear. Both relied heavily on unreliable testimony. Both encouraged witnesses to accuse others, and both ended with innocent people losing their lives. The events of 1741 also exposed a deeper problem inside colonial America. New York depended on enslaved labor to build its economy while constantly fearing the very people whose work made the colony prosperous. That contradiction created an atmosphere where suspicion could flourish. All it took was a handful of unexplained fires, a frightened teenage witness, and officials desperate to prove they were in control. The result became one of the greatest miscarriages of justice in early American history. Today, millions of people walk through Lower Manhattan every year. Towering skyscrapers now stand where wooden homes once lined dusty roads. Busy financial districts have replaced colonial taverns. Almost nothing remains of the town that lived through those terrifying months. Yet beneath the modern city lies a forgotten story, a story about fear, about power, about the danger of believing accusations without evidence. Whether a real conspiracy ever existed may never be known, but one lesson has survived nearly 300 years. Sometimes the greatest threat to a society is not the fire that destroys its buildings. It is the fear that consumes its people.